It started with a dull hum beneath the earth, the kind of low vibration that seemed to thrum beneath your feet and up into your bones. Dwayne Ollinger and his team had encountered many strange phenomena at Blind Frog Ranch. Unexpected cave-ins, electromagnetic anomalies, even claims of ancient treasure, but nothing prepared them for the claustrophobic descent that awaited them under the unforgiving surface of eastern Utah. The tunnel had revealed itself only after a minor landslide near the edge of the property. One of the ranch hands, while clearing debris, noticed a sliver of black void between the boulders. Chad Ollinger, Dwayne's son, and the team's lead explorer, was the first to crawl inside, armed only with a flashlight, a GoPro, and his signature stubbornness. "This thing ain't natural," Chad had muttered, brushing away cobwebs and squeezing through the initial passage. "It's like someone built this, then wanted it forgotten." The rest of the team, Eric Drummond, the geologist, Charlie Snyder, the security expert, and Jamie, the ever-watchful camera operator, watched from the entrance as Chad disappeared into the earth like a ghost swallowed by the dark. Within minutes, radio contact with Chad was lost. A breathless descent took less than 10 minutes for concern to turn to panic. Chad wasn't answering. There was no signal. Dwayne paced like a caged animal above ground, muttering threats to whoever, or whatever, had carved these tunnels. He wasn't about to lose his son to a hole in the desert. Within half an hour, the team suited up with climbing gear, headlamps, and oxygen sensors. Jamie kept the camera rolling, his lens capturing every nervous glance, every uncertain footfall. As the team entered the tunnel, a palpable shift in atmosphere overwhelmed them. The air was thick, damp, and smelled faint metallic. The stone walls pressed inward like the earth itself was trying to expel them. Dwayne took point, his hand brushing the narrow walls for balance. Eric followed, mumbling geological jargon to himself, trying to make sense of the bizarre mineral formations glowing faintly green under the light. Charlie took the rear, armed and vigilant. About 30 feet in, the tunnel split into two. "We go left," Dwayne said firmly. "Why?" Eric asked. "Because I can feel him that way," Dwayne replied, without looking back. Something in the walls to left path narrowed quickly. They had to crawl on hands and knees, pushing equipment ahead like moles in a mine. The walls were smooth in some sections, unnaturally smooth. Man-made, or so it seemed. Strange etchings appeared at random. Circles within circles, jagged spirals, symbols that none of them recognized. Eric ran his hand across one such carving and recoiled like he'd been burned. "Felt static," he stammered, "like the stone's alive." Suddenly, Jamie's headlamp flickered, then went out. "Battery's fine." "What the hell?" he began, but was cut off by a sound no one could explain. A breath. It wasn't theirs. It came from deep within the tunnel. Slow, labored breathing echoing around them, like something very large and very old was slumbering ahead. "Keep moving," Dwayne snapped. "He's down here." "I know it." With each inch they crawled, the tunnel seemed to grow tighter. Oxygen levels dropped slightly and the temperature rose. Sweat ran into their eyes. Breathing became work. Talking became impossible. And then they saw him. Chad, crouched and unmoving, in a chamber just large enough for the team to stand. The chamber of teeth Chad was pale but conscious, his eyes wide with something that looked like awe or terror. He pointed behind him without a word. The chamber he discovered was unlike anything the team had seen. The walls were lined with what appeared to be bones, long, sharp, symmetrical. They formed a jagged crown along the ceiling, curving inward like the jaws of some subterranean predator. "Teeth," Jamie whispered. No. Eric counted, swallowing hard. They're carved, but made to look like teeth. Ritualistic, maybe. At the chamber center stood a low stone pedestal, half buried in rubble. On it rested a dark obsidian tablet, covered in the same spiraling runes as the tunnel walls. Duane stepped forward, brushing dust from the surface. No, Chad warned, finally speaking. When I touched it, I heard something. What? Duane asked. Voices, Chad replied. Speaking a language I've never heard, but somehow understood. The team exchanged nervous glances. We need to document this and get the hell out, Charlie said, his voice shaky. But the tunnel had other plans. Collapse and confession without warning. The chamber trembled. Dust fell like snow from the teeth. The team ducked instinctively as a low rumble roared through the tunnel like thunder underwater. Back. Everyone back, Duane shouted. They scrambled toward the exit, but the path they'd come through had vanished. A collapse. Tons of rock now blocked their only escape. Trapped. Panic took root. Air was now precious. To move in closer. The walls seemed. Claustrophobia clawed at their minds. Eric began pacing in circles, rambling about electromagnetic fault lines. Jamie sat shaking, clutching the camera as if it could somehow protect him. And Chad? Chad stared back at the tablet. I think it called me here, he muttered. The dreams I've had, months now, dark tunnels, firelight, those symbols. You should have told me, Duane said, crouching beside him. I didn't want you to think I was losing it. No one's losing it, Duane lied. Except maybe they all were. The path below Charlie took the lead now. There's airflow. Feel that? He was right. A breeze, cold and steady, whispered in from a smaller side shaft near the chamber's edge. It might be another way out. Or it might drop into the Earth's guts, Eric said grimly. With no other choice, they followed Charlie into the shaft. It sloped downward steeply, forcing them to rappel at times, their ropes scraping against jagged rock. The air grew colder, almost sterile. Moisture formed on their skin. They could hear water dripping in the distance. After a mile, maybe more, the tunnel opened into a cavern so vast their lights couldn't find the ceiling. What they did see froze them in place. Stone structures, pyramids, arches, and stairways stood silently in the dark, half buried in mineral deposits. A lost city beneath the earth, untouched by time. No way, Jamie breathed. This is impossible. Looks pre-Columbian, Eric said, nearly breathless with scientific hunger. But this deep? It rewrites everything we know. Then the lights began to flicker again. Something stirred in the shadows. Escape or offerings. Hattever dwelled beneath Blind Frog Ranch. It didn't want to be seen. Whispers echoed from every corner of the cavern, unintelligible but angry. The team backed slowly away from the ruins, eyes darting to every dark crevice. Duane led them to a narrow tunnel on the far side of the chamber. Oxygen sensors blinked red. They had minutes. Climbing, crawling, praying, they fought through collapsed stone and mud until light, a faint beam, shone from above. Daylight. They clawed toward it like drowning men, emerging in a dry wash nearly half a mile from the ranch. Covered in dirt, gasping for air, they collapsed one by one. Aftermath back at the ranch, the team said little. They reviewed footage, but most of it was garbled or mysteriously erased. Only fragments remained. The breath sounds, a flash of the teeth chamber, and one frame, just one, of a figure cloaked in shadow standing behind Chad. The tunnel collapsed entirely 2 days later. Nature, or something else, had buried the secret again. But the dreams didn't stop. Chad still wakes at 3:33 a.m., gasping, drenched in sweat, the whisper of foreign voices echoing in his ears. And Duane? He hasn't gone near the dig site since. Because deep beneath Blind Frog Ranch, something waits. Watching. Whispering. And next time, it might not let them leave. A brittle wind howled over the Utah desert as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, unsettling shadows over the sagebrush and stone. At the heart of Blind Frog Ranch, tension simmered beneath the surface, both figuratively and literally. Duane Olina stood near the edge of a newly opened sinkhole. Dust and loose earth still crumbled from the lip, revealing a jagged tear in the land. This wasn't the first time the ground had revealed secrets. But something about this breach felt different. It felt hungry. Beside him, his son Chad Olinda adjusted the straps of his headlamp and tightened his gloves. They uncovered collapsed mine shafts and ancient vaults in the past, but this newly exposed tunnel had an energy that prickled the skin. The dogs wouldn't go near it. The drone refused to fly over it. Even their usually unshakable cameraman, Jamie, looked uneasy. "We go in, we go smart," Duane muttered. "No hero moves." But what waited beneath Blind Frog Ranch didn't play by the rules. At first glance, the tunnel seemed to be in natural formation, tight, craggy, and no wider than a man's shoulders. But as the crew descended, it became clear that something, or someone, had expanded these walls long ago. The texture changed. Raw stone gave way to a smoother, almost polished surface. Chad's light flickered across strange grooves, curving in symmetrical patterns, as if etched with obsessive precision. "We're not the first ones in here," Eric Drummond, the resident geologist, observed, his voice hushed. The further they crawled, the tighter the air became. It wasn't the dust or lack of oxygen. It was something else. The tunnel seemed to press inward, its walls subtly curving like a throat. The psychological pressure set in fast. Each breath echoed off the stone with eerie delay. Their radios began to distort. Minutes became an hour. The team wriggled and squirmed through the ever-narrowing path. One by one, their confidence cracked. Jamie muttered nervously. Eric's hands trembled. Even Chad, usually unflappable, paused to catch his breath more.